People always say betrayal comes from enemies. That's a lie. The worst betrayal comes from the person who knows your heart better than anyone else. And on the night my world collapsed, I learned that lesson in the hardest way possible. I still remember the rain hitting the apartment windows. The clock on the wall said 11:43 p.m. I had just finished decorating the dining table because it was our anniversary. 5 years together, 3 years married, and somehow, I still believed we were happy. I had cooked his favorite meal. Candles, music, even the stupid chocolate cake he always joked about. I called him again. No answer. Probably working late, I whispered to myself. That was the excuse I always used. Because love makes you blind before betrayal opens your eyes. Then my phone buzzed. A message. But not from him. It was from an unknown number. One picture. No text. Just one picture. I opened it, and my heart stopped. There he was. My husband, Ethan, laughing, holding another woman's hand, walking into a hotel. Timestamp. 10 minutes earlier. I stared at the image for so long that my vision blurred. No. I kept shaking my head. No, there has to be an explanation. That's what broken people say before the truth destroys them. Then another message came. Thought you deserved to know. That was it. No name. No explanation. Just enough to ruin my life. I called Ethan again. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Again. Nothing. I sat there in silence while the candles slowly burned out. And something inside me changed. Not anger. Not yet. First came humiliation. The kind that crushes your chest. The kind that makes you question every memory. Every smile. Every kiss. Every promise. Had he ever loved me? Or had I just been convenient? I didn't sleep that night. At 2 a.m., the apartment door finally opened. Ethan walked in looking exhausted. Then he saw the candles. The food. Me. And for 1 second, I saw panic in his eyes. "Claire," he said carefully. "You're still awake." Still awake. As if that was the problem. I stood slowly. My hands were shaking. "Where were you?" He loosened his tie. "Work meeting." The lie came so naturally. That hurt more than the picture. I picked up my phone. Opened the image. Turned the screen toward him. The color drained from his face. Silence. Heavy. Ugly. Deadly. Finally he whispered, "Claire, I can explain." That sentence. The favorite sentence of every liar on earth. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because my brain couldn't process the pain. "How long?" I asked. He looked away. That told me everything. "How long?" I repeated louder. "A few months. A few months." My knees almost gave out. Because while I was planning anniversaries, he was planning excuses. I should have screamed, thrown something, cried, but instead I became terrifyingly calm. "Who is she?" He rubbed his face. "Her name is Vanessa." Vanessa. I hated her instantly, even though deep down, I knew the real betrayal belonged to him. "She means nothing," he said quickly. "It just happened. Nothing." Funny how people destroy marriages over people who supposedly mean nothing. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I asked the question that truly mattered. "Do you love her?" And he hesitated. That hesitation shattered the last piece of my heart. I nodded slowly. "Get out. Claire. Get out." He tried walking toward me. "I made a mistake." "No," I said softly. "A mistake is forgetting milk at the grocery store. You lied to me every single day." He stood frozen. Then something unexpected happened. He looked annoyed. Actually annoyed. "Can we not make this dramatic?" He snapped. That sentence lit a fire inside me. Not dramatic. He cheated. Destroyed our marriage. Humiliated me. And somehow my pain was the inconvenience. I looked at him differently after that. Not like a husband. Like a stranger. That was the moment revenge quietly entered my heart. Not revenge through violence. Not revenge through screaming. Something smarter. Something colder. Because the worst revenge isn't destroying someone instantly. It's letting them lose everything slowly. And Ethan had no idea what was coming. The next morning felt unreal. Ethan slept on the couch while I sat alone in the bedroom staring at the ceiling. I kept replaying every moment from the last year. The late nights. The secretive phone calls. The sudden gym memberships. The emotional distance. The signs had been there. I just refused to see them. Because when you love someone deeply, you become an expert at explaining away their bad behavior. At 7 a.m., I heard movement in the kitchen. Coffee brewing. Cabinet doors opening. Normal sounds. And somehow that hurt the most. How could life still sound normal after everything exploded? I walked into the kitchen. Ethan looked up nervously. "Morning," he said quietly. "Morning." Like we were still a couple. Like he hadn't ripped my heart apart 12 hours earlier. "I'll leave after work," he said. I crossed my arms. "You should leave now," he sighed. "I don't want this to end like this." I almost laughed again. Men like Ethan always wanted peaceful endings. Because peaceful endings help them avoid guilt. "You already ended it," I replied. He rubbed his forehead. "Claire, I've been unhappy." That sentence hit me hard. Not because it was true. Because it was cruel. Unhappy. As if his cheating was somehow my fault. "What exactly made you unhappy?" I asked. "You changed." Changed. I stared at him in disbelief. "You mean after I supported us while you built your company?" I said. "Or after I worked overtime to help pay your debts?" He looked uncomfortable. "Or maybe after my father died and I fell into depression for months." Silence. That silence told me something important. He already had a story in his head where he was the victim. Cheaters do that. They rewrite history so they can sleep at night. Then his phone buzzed on the counter. "Vanessa." I saw the name clearly. He grabbed the phone quickly. Too quickly. That tiny movement burned into my memory. Because in that moment, I realized something horrifying. He wasn't sorry he cheated. He was sorry he got caught. There's a difference. A massive difference. I took a deep breath. "Go answer her," I said. "Claire, go." He looked guilty for exactly 2 seconds before walking into the hallway. And I heard him whisper, "Hey." Soft, gentle, warm. A voice he hadn't used with me in months. That destroyed me more than the affair itself. I walked back into the bedroom and shut the door. Then I finally cried. Not pretty crying. Not movie crying. Real crying. The kind where your chest hurts. The kind where breathing feels impossible. I cried for my marriage. For my wasted years. For the woman I used to be before betrayal changed her. But eventually, the tears stopped. And when they stopped, clarity arrived. I opened my laptop. Then I did something Ethan never expected. I started investigating. Not emotionally. Strategically. I checked our bank accounts. That's when the second betrayal hit. Thousands of dollars missing. Hotel payments. Luxury restaurant bills. Jewelry stores. All hidden under business expenses. I felt sick. He wasn't just cheating. He was using our money to fund his affair. My hands trembled as I kept scrolling. Then I found something even worse. A pending transfer. $50,000. To a separate account I didn't recognize. That's when the puzzle pieces started fitting together. This wasn't just emotional betrayal. Ethan was preparing to leave. And he planned to take everything he could before I noticed. Suddenly I understood why he seemed calm. Why he wasn't begging harder. He thought he already won. But he underestimated me. That would become the biggest mistake of his life. I took screenshots, downloaded records, forwarded everything to a hidden email. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in months. My college friend, Rachel. Rachel was a lawyer. And unlike me, Rachel saw through people instantly. She answered on the second ring. Claire. The second she heard my voice, she knew something was wrong. What happened? And for the first time, I said the words out loud. Ethan cheated on me. There was silence. Then, that idiot. I almost smiled. Rachel listened carefully while I explained everything. The affair, the money, the secret account. Then her tone changed completely. Claire, she said slowly. Do not confront him about the money yet. Why? Because if he's hiding assets, he'll move faster once he knows you noticed. I swallowed hard. Are you saying he planned this? I'm saying men don't secretly move $50,000 by accident. That sentence chilled me, because suddenly this wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was war, and Ethan had fired the first shot. For the next 2 weeks, I pretended nothing had changed. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. Ethan moved into the guest room temporarily. At least that's what he called it. Temporary. As if our marriage still had a future. Meanwhile, I watched him carefully. And the more I watched, the more horrifying things became. Because Ethan was living 2 completely different lives. To friends and family, he acted like the perfect husband. At dinner with his parents, he held my hand. Asked if I needed water. Smiled like nothing was wrong. His mother even said, "You two are such a strong couple." I nearly choked. Ethan squeezed my hand under the table. A warning. Don't expose me. That moment changed something inside me forever. I realized he cared more about his image than my pain. And suddenly, I knew exactly where to hit him. Not his money. Not his relationship. His reputation. Because people like Ethan survive on appearances. Without admiration, they fall apart. That night after dinner, he followed me into the kitchen. You almost said something, he whispered. I looked at him coldly. Would it matter? Yes, he snapped. My parents don't need to know our private business. Our private business. Amazing. He made cheating sound like a minor disagreement. You should have thought about privacy before walking into hotels with another woman, I replied. His jaw tightened. You're trying to punish me. Punish him. That word echoed in my head. He still didn't understand. Consequences felt like punishment to selfish people. I leaned closer. You haven't seen punishment yet. For the first time since the affair was exposed, Ethan looked nervous. Good. He should have been. The next morning, Rachel met me at a quiet coffee shop downtown. She reviewed all the financial records carefully. Then she looked up. Claire, this is bigger than cheating. I felt my stomach twist. What do you mean? He's been moving marital assets for almost a year. A year. 1 whole year. That meant while he kissed me goodbye every morning, he was secretly preparing his escape. I felt humiliated. How did I not see this? Rachel reached across the table. Because you trusted your husband. That's not weakness. But it felt like weakness. Every memory now looked fake. Birthdays. Vacations. Anniversary photos. Had he already fallen for Vanessa during those moments? Rachel handed me a folder. I want you to document everything from now on. Texts. Bank statements. Phone records if possible. I nodded. Then she asked a question that caught me off guard. What do you want, Claire? I stared out the cafe window. At first I wanted him back. Then I wanted answers. Now, I wanted justice. I want him to regret underestimating me, I said softly. Rachel smiled slightly. Good. Because regret is coming. That night Ethan came home unusually cheerful. Which immediately made me suspicious. What happened? I asked. He loosened his jacket. I got promoted. Promoted. Wonderful. The universe was rewarding him while my life burned. Then he added, there's a celebration dinner Friday. Couples are invited. I blinked. You want me to go? He shrugged. It would avoid questions. Avoid questions. There it was again. Image. Appearance. Performance. And suddenly a dangerous idea formed in my mind. If Ethan wanted appearances, I would give him appearances. Until the exact moment I destroyed them. Friday arrived faster than I expected. I stood in front of the mirror staring at myself. I barely recognized the woman looking back. 2 weeks earlier, I had been heartbroken. Now, I was becoming something colder. Something sharper. And honestly, it scared me. I wore the black dress Ethan always loved. Not for him, for strategy. When I walked downstairs, he froze. You look beautiful, he whispered. That almost made me laugh. Because suddenly he noticed me again. Funny how betrayal works. People only value what they're about to lose. The event was held at a luxury rooftop restaurant downtown. Soft music, champagne glasses, city lights. Everyone congratulated Ethan. You're killing it, man. Power couple right here. You two are goals. Every compliment felt like poison. And Ethan soaked up every second of it. He smiled, laughed, wrapped his arm around my waist. A performance worthy of an award. Then I saw her, Vanessa, standing near the bar, tall, confident, beautiful, and staring directly at me. My chest tightened instantly. She knew who I was. Of course she did. And the worst part, she didn't look ashamed. Not even a little. Ethan noticed where I was looking. His body stiffened. Claire, you invited her? I whispered. She works with one of the executives. Convenient. Very convenient. Then Vanessa smiled at me. Actually smiled. That was the moment my sadness finally turned into rage. Not wild rage. Focused rage. The dangerous kind. Throughout dinner, I watched them. Tiny glances. Subtle smiles. Inside jokes. They thought they were discreet. They weren't. At one point, Ethan excused himself. A minute later, Vanessa disappeared too. I waited 30 seconds before following them. My heart pounded violently. I walked down the hallway toward the private balcony area. Then I heard her laugh. I stopped, and there they were, kissing, at his company celebration, while I was sitting 10 feet away pretending to be his wife. Something inside me snapped, not emotionally, mentally. The last illusion disappeared. Ethan wasn't confused. He wasn't guilty. He was arrogant. He genuinely believed he could humiliate me and still control the story. I stepped forward slowly. They jumped apart. Vanessa looked embarrassed for exactly 1 second. Then her expression changed. Smug. Ethan panicked. Claire, wait. No, I interrupted calmly. You know what's amazing? They both stared silently. I used to think one of you was the bad person. But now I realize you deserve each other. Vanessa crossed her arms. You don't know the full story. I looked at her. And you think you do? That shut her up. Ethan stepped toward me. Please don't make a scene. Again with the scene. Always protecting appearances. I smiled. And that smile genuinely frightened him. Relax, I said softly. I'm not making a scene tonight. Then I walked away. But inside, I had officially declared war. Revenge isn't impulsive. At least smart revenge isn't. Smart revenge is patient. And over the next month, I became patient. Very patient. Ethan thought my silence meant weakness. That was exactly what I wanted him to believe. Meanwhile, Rachel and I worked quietly behind the scenes. We uncovered hidden accounts, fake business expenses, secret transfers. The deeper we dug, the uglier things became. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He had manipulated our entire marriage financially. And Vanessa, she benefited from all of it. Trips, jewelry, luxury shopping, paid for using money that legally belonged to both of us. Every new discovery hardened my heart. But revenge alone wasn't enough anymore. I wanted truth. I wanted everyone to see who Ethan really was. Because men like him survive by controlling narratives. So I decided to destroy the narrative. One careful move at a time. First, I stopped reacting emotionally. That confused him. No yelling, no crying, no begging, just calm. And calm people are terrifying. One evening, Ethan sat across from me at dinner. "You've been distant," he said. I almost choked on my water. Distant. The irony was unbelievable. "I'm thinking," I replied. "About what? Whether I ever really knew you." He looked uncomfortable. Then came the manipulation. "You're acting like I'm a monster." There it was. Victim mode. I leaned back. "Did you love her?" He sighed dramatically. "It's complicated." "No," I said. "It's actually very simple." He looked irritated. "You think you're perfect," he snapped. And suddenly I understood something important. Ethan resented me. Not because I hurt him. Because my existence reminded him of his own guilt. That's why selfish people attack the people they betray. Because accountability feels unbearable. I stood slowly. "You know what your problem is?" I asked. He crossed his arms. "What? You think love means someone will tolerate your disrespect forever?" For once, he had no response. And that silence told me I was winning. A week later, Rachel called with major news. "We found something huge." I drove to her office immediately. She handed me documents. My eyes widened. Ethan had been using company funds improperly. Not enough for criminal charges. But enough to destroy his career if exposed. I stared at the paperwork. This could ruin him. Rachel nodded carefully. "You need to decide who you want to be, Claire." That question haunted me. Because revenge changes people. And I could feel myself changing every single day. Part of me wanted to burn his entire life down. Another part remembered the man I once loved. The man who used to dance with me in the kitchen. The man who held my hand at my father's funeral. Was that version real? Or had I imagined him? I didn't know anymore. But I did know one thing. Ethan had never truly feared losing me. That needed to change. So I made my move. I filed for divorce. And I made sure he was served at work. In front of everyone. Including Vanessa. Rachel called me immediately after the papers were delivered. "It happened," she said. "How bad?" "Apparently very bad." I could picture Ethan perfectly. The shock. The embarrassment. The panic. For the first time, the consequences became public. And Ethan hated public consequences. My phone exploded with calls within minutes. I ignored every single one. Voicemail after voicemail piled up. "Claire, please call me. We need to talk. Don't do this. Don't do this." Interesting. He said that after divorce papers. Not after cheating. Finally, after 12 missed calls, he showed up at the apartment. He looked furious. Not heartbroken. Furious. "You served me at work," he snapped. I stayed calm. "You cheated on me during work events." His jaw tightened. That was humiliating. I stared at him. "Now you understand how I felt." For a second, he looked genuinely speechless. Then came anger. "You're trying to ruin my life." "No," I said quietly. "You ruined your life. I'm just refusing to protect you anymore." That sentence hit him hard. Because it was true. For years, I had protected his image. Explained his behavior. Supported his ambitions. Covered his flaws. And now, that protection was gone. He sat down heavily. Ran his hands through his hair. "I made mistakes," he admitted. "But this is extreme. Extreme. Cheaters always call accountability extreme." "You lied for over a year," I replied. "You stole money from our marriage. You embarrassed me publicly. And somehow this is extreme." He opened his mouth. Closed it. Then something unexpected happened. He cried. Real tears. And for one terrifying second, my heart softened. That's the danger of loving someone deeply. Even after betrayal, part of you still wants to comfort them. But then he said something that destroyed that feeling instantly. I never thought you'd actually leave. I froze. Not. I'm sorry. Not. I hurt you. He never thought I'd leave. Meaning he believed I would tolerate anything. That realization changed everything. I looked at him differently after that. Not as a broken man. As an entitled one. You underestimated me, I whispered. He looked up. Claire. No, you thought I'd cry, forgive you, and stay. That's what this is really about. Silence filled the apartment. Because he knew I was right. Then his phone buzzed. Vanessa. Again. He stared at the screen. And this time, I smiled. Go ahead, I said. Answer it. He declined the call. Too late. The damage was already done. That night after he left, I stood alone in the apartment for a long time. And strangely, I didn't feel weak anymore. I felt free. Not healed. Not happy. But free. And freedom after betrayal feels like breathing again after drowning. Secrets never stay buried forever. Especially when too many people are involved. Within days of the divorce filing, rumors spread through Ethan's company. People whispered. Coworkers stared. Meetings became awkward. And apparently Vanessa became the center of attention too. Rachel updated me constantly. She's furious, Rachel said during one call. Why? Because Ethan told her you already knew about the affair months ago. I blinked. He lied to her too. Rachel laughed coldly. Claire, men like Ethan don't suddenly become honest with their mistresses. That truth hit hard, because somehow it made everything even uglier. He manipulated both of us. Different lies. Different performances. Same selfish man. Then something unexpected happened. Vanessa contacted me directly. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Hello. Silence. Then, I think we should talk. Her voice sounded nervous. Not smug anymore. Interesting. We met at a quiet cafe the next afternoon. The second I saw her, I noticed the difference. She looked exhausted. Stressed. Reality had finally reached her. She sat across from me awkwardly. I didn't know everything, she said immediately. I stayed silent. She told me you two were basically separated. I almost smiled. Classic. The oldest lie in the world. He said your marriage ended emotionally years ago. There it was. Another performance. Another fake story. Vanessa looked down. I know you hate me. I took a slow breath. I don't even know you. That answer surprised her. Because it was true. The real betrayal still belonged to Ethan. She swallowed hard. He promised he was leaving you. Promised. Future faking. Another manipulation tactic. I suddenly saw the entire situation differently. Vanessa wasn't innocent. But she wasn't special either. She was just another person Ethan lied to. Then she said something that changed everything. There's something else you should know. My stomach tightened. What? He's moving company money again. I froze. What? She looked nervous. I overheard him talking on the phone. He's trying to protect assets before the divorce is finalized. My pulse quickened. That idiot. He still thought he could outsmart me. Vanessa leaned forward. He's panicking, Claire. He thinks you're trying to destroy him. I looked her directly in the eyes. He destroyed himself. And for the first time, she nodded in agreement. That night I forwarded everything to Rachel. The financial records. Vanessa's information. New account details. Rachel sounded stunned. He's digging his own grave. And honestly, she was right. Because every selfish decision Ethan made only strengthened my case. The man who thought he controlled everything was slowly losing control. And he still didn't realize the worst part was coming. 2 months into the divorce process, Ethan invited me to dinner. At first I refused. Then curiosity took over again. We met at the same restaurant where we had our first date. Of course he chose that place. Nostalgia, manipulation, emotion. He still thought memories could save him. When I arrived, he stood up immediately. "You came," he said softly. I sat down without smiling. "What do you want?" He looked tired. Actually tired. For the first time since everything started, he looked like a man facing consequences. "I miss you," he admitted. Those words should have mattered. Months earlier, they would have shattered me. Now, they felt late. Painfully late. "I ended things with Vanessa," he said. I blinked. Interesting. Why? He looked ashamed. She realized I lied to her. I almost laughed at the irony. The liar got abandoned for lying. There was silence between us. Then he looked directly at me. "I know I don't deserve another chance." For once, he sounded honest. And honesty from Ethan felt unfamiliar. "I ruined everything," he whispered. Part of me wanted to believe him. That was the dangerous part. Because broken love still remembers good memories. Then he said something that changed the entire conversation. "I was jealous of you." I frowned. "What? You always seemed stronger than me. More grounded. More respected." I stared silently. I think part of me wanted validation. Attention. Excitement. Finally. The truth. Not because I failed him. Not because our marriage lacked love. Because he lacked maturity. That realization healed something inside me. For months I blamed myself. Questioned myself. Compared myself. But betrayal often says more about the betrayer than the betrayed. Ethan looked down. I hate who I became. And strangely, I believed him. Because consequences had finally stripped away his arrogance. But healing and reconciliation are not the same thing. I could understand his regret without returning to him. That distinction mattered. A lot. "I loved you deeply," I said quietly. His eyes filled instantly. But love without respect destroys people. He nodded slowly. "I know." "No," I corrected softly. "Now you know." That silence lasted a long time. Then I stood. Ethan looked panicked. "Is this goodbye?" I looked at him carefully. At the man I once planned forever with. Then I answered honestly. "It's acceptance." And for the first time since the affair began, I walked away without anger. 3 weeks later, Ethan's career collapsed. Not dramatically. Not publicly. Quietly. Which somehow made it worse. His company launched an internal investigation into financial irregularities. Nothing criminal, but enough to destroy trust. Promotions disappeared. Leadership opportunities vanished. People stopped seeing him as reliable. And for someone obsessed with image, that was devastating. Rachel called me with the update. "He resigned this morning." I sat silently. Months earlier, I would have celebrated. Now, I mostly felt tired. Because revenge sounds satisfying in theory. But watching someone collapse is more complicated when you once loved them. Especially when part of that collapse is self-inflicted. Then Rachel asked, "How do you feel?" I thought about it carefully. Not victorious. Not happy. Just done. "I think I finally stopped carrying him emotionally," I admitted. And that was the real revenge. Not the divorce. Not the exposure. Not the consequences. Indifference. The moment someone loses emotional control over you, they lose power. Meanwhile, my own life slowly started rebuilding. I returned to hobbies. Started therapy. Spent time with friends again. I laughed genuinely for the first time in months during dinner with Rachel. That moment almost made me cry. Because betrayal steals pieces of your identity. And healing means finding those pieces again. One afternoon, I unexpectedly ran into Ethan downtown. He looked different. Older somehow. Quieter. We stood awkwardly near a bookstore entrance. "Hey," he said. "Hey." There was no tension anymore. Just history. I heard your business is doing well, he said. I nodded. I'm trying. He smiled faintly. You always do. That compliment felt sincere. Then he looked at me carefully. You seem happy. I thought about that. Was I happy? Not completely. Healing isn't instant. But I was peaceful. And peace after betrayal feels priceless. I'm getting there, I answered. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry, Claire, for all of it. This time, it sounded real. Not manipulative. Not defensive. Just honest regret. And strangely, hearing it no longer mattered the way I once imagined. Because closure doesn't always come from apologies. Sometimes closure comes from becoming someone stronger than your pain. We said goodbye shortly after that. And as I walked away, I realized something important. I no longer wanted revenge. Because revenge belongs to wounded people. Healing belongs to survivors. If you asked me a year earlier what betrayal looked like, I would have described tears. Now, I'd describe transformation. Because betrayal changes you. Sometimes painfully. Sometimes permanently. But not always negatively. Losing Ethan forced me to confront uncomfortable truths. About love. About self-worth. About boundaries. I learned that loyalty without respect becomes self-destruction. I learned that forgiveness does not require reconciliation. And most importantly, I learned that staying silent to protect someone else's image can slowly destroy your own soul. For months after the divorce, people asked the same question. Do you hate him? And honestly, no. Hatred requires emotional attachment. What I feel now is something quieter. Acceptance. Ethan made selfish choices. Those choices destroyed our marriage. Then those same choices destroyed the life he built. That's not revenge. That's consequence. Sometimes the universe doesn't need your help punishing people. Sometimes people ruin themselves. The hardest part wasn't losing him. The hardest part was rebuilding trust in myself. Because betrayal makes you question your instincts, your judgment, your value. But over time, I realized something important. Being deceived doesn't make you foolish. It means you loved honestly. And honest love is never something to be ashamed of. One evening, months later, I stood in my apartment watching rain hit the windows. The same apartment, the same city, but a completely different woman. I remembered the night everything collapsed. The candles, the picture, the heartbreak. Back then, I thought my life was ending. But sometimes endings are hidden beginnings. Sometimes losing the wrong person saves you from losing yourself. And that was the real lesson. Not revenge, not exposure, not even justice. Self-respect. Because the moment I stopped begging for honesty, I finally found peace. And if someone ever betrays you like that, remember this. You do not need to scream to prove your worth. You do not need to destroy yourself trying to save someone who disrespects you. And you definitely do not need to stay where love has become humiliation. Walk away, heal, rebuild. That alone is powerful, because the greatest revenge is becoming someone they no longer have access to. And Ethan, he thought I'd forgive him. My revenge proved him wrong. But my healing, that changed everything.